right, welcome back. It is warm out today. So today we're going to talk about another person in our character series. Have you ever felt peer pressured by someone? I mean, I know that during my time in high school, I think what I felt was mostly pressure from other people to live my life a certain way and to act a certain way and to care about certain things. Now, luckily, one of the things that I was never really pressured in was my faith, because I grew up in a Christian high school, and so I was very fortunate in that way. And so today I want to begin talking about this person in the Old Testament, Daniel. And I want to talk about him for 2 weeks, but this week specifically, I want to talk about his friends and a story that happens in Daniel 3. Now, this story is about three people, and their names are Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, or if you're more familiar with the VeggieTales version, Rak, Shak, and Benny, who I'm going to refer to them as that from now on because that's much more fun. Now, at the time that we hear about these three, there's a king named Nebuchadnezzar, and he had a big statue built in the middle of the city that was made of gold, and he required everyone to worship this statue whenever they played musical instruments kind of throughout the town. But these three, being good Jewish boys, decided not to. They refused to worship this other god. After all, the first commandment in the Ten Commandments is to have no other gods before Yahweh. So naturally, Nebuchadnezzar finds out about this, and he summons them and basically says to them, look, if you're not going to worship this statue, then I'm going to throw you into a furnace, which, whoa, big step there. But they respond by saying, no, we're going to worship who we want to worship. And if you throw us into the furnace, we trust that God will protect us. And so Nebuchadnezzar gets even more angry and says, all right, throw him into the furnace. We're going to make it, 7 times hotter, I think is what he says, because he wants to teach these guys a lesson. So basically they take them to the furnace. The Bible tells us it was so hot that the soldiers who brought them to the furnace, they died because of how hot it was. And so this all happens. They're in the fire. They begin to see another fourth person in the fire with them, which we don't really know who that is, but best guess is that was an angel protecting them, because after a while Nebuchadnezzar called them back out and they walked out totally fine. And then once they walked out safely, the king then worships God, because he's like, well, of course this is God if these people stood in this furnace and walked out totally fine. So is our takeaway to go jump into furnaces whenever we can and to see if an angel will follow us? I don't think that's what we're supposed to take from this story. Rather, I think we're supposed to hear about how these guys stood up for themselves, and they stood up for the things that they believed in, and we see how God still protected them. When you feel like the world is kind of pushing you to your limits with the things that you think are okay, things like whether it be obvious things like drugs or alcohol or sex or things like that, or whether it's just spending money responsibly or pornography or things that easily become a part of our lives. It's good to know that there are people like this who have experienced worse things and have stood firm in their commitment to God. Daniel's friends were pressured into worshiping another god, and they refused and were thrown into a fire. Now, chances are, if you stand up for the God that you worship, you probably won't be thrown into a fire. I'm sure that there's so many reasons why that wouldn't happen these days. But that being said, if you stand up for your faith, you might see some tension. It might be awkward at times to kind of share the fact that you believe in this faith that means that you don't want to live a certain way. But lean into the good, lean into the things that you can do to benefit your friends and to benefit yourself. See, when the king saw how these people stood up for their faith, he was amazed and he worshiped with them. So maybe if you're able to stand up for the things you believe in, friends, family, people that see the way that you act will maybe at least be interested in the thing that you're so faithful to. So I encourage you with that. We'll see you Wednesday.